Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka Mono Bluetron, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. So today we're trying out a card that I'm pretty sure isn't actually even confirmed yet, SPYRAL Sleeper. Now for those of you who don't know, in a PR blunder slightly above McDonald's and slightly below United, some moron at Konami accidentally packed a lot of the Maximum Crisis Supers into the new OST pack. I'll be spending the next couple of episodes playing around with these cards, and first on the list is the new Spiral support. So let's jump in. Okay, so here's the deck list. Now, I know you're all probably bored of watching me uselessly fumble my way through zoo combos, and trust me when I say I am just as bored of doing them, but the only place this pile of cards has ever done well is in grindy, painful zoo lists. As always, I'll be giving you a little bit of history about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion of what I hope the deck can do, and as always, the card by card. So, first, Spiral is a TCG exclusive. Now, historically, Konami has released two TCG archetypes at the same time, one good one and one bad one. Alongside Burning Abyss came Ultra Athletes, the sports ball archetype for people who can't play sports. Alongside Cosmo came Kaiju, which, despite being really busted removal spells, are an unplayably bad archetype in and of themselves. And now, with the release of Spiral and Subterrors, Konami has broken tradition and given us two bricky, inconsistent archetypes at once. Fortunately, the snuck-in pack releases are actually really busted and look like they might give a little bit of play to these fumbling messes. Spirals are a group of monsters that all center around a single member of their archetype, Spiral Super Agent, who special summons himself as long as you know the type of the top card of your opponent's deck, which the other monsters enable. They also have a bunch of cool spell and trap support, which is pretty good casually, but slow competitively. Effectively, they're just a way to summon some level 4s and grind out some advantage. This deck, like most grass decks, is designed to, well, mill itself. Effectively, we've taken the 60-card Zoo shell and supplemented it by actually playing a finisher, the 2800 attack Spiral Sleeper. Like normal Zoo, we should be able to set up pretty okay turn 1 boards while jamming enough guys in our graveyard to pay the maintenance costs on the busted Spiral Field spell. Hopefully, we'll be able to mill enough guys for Sleeper's summon cost, which is that you have to banish 3 copies of a Spiral from your graveyard. And aside from that, we've got a lot of the other good grass stuff, you know, snow and all that. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the deck list. First, we've got 2 copies of Spiral Sleeper, 2 instead of 3 because we can find him off the field spell and he's bricky in multiples. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. He has to be special summoned from your hand by banishing 3 Spiral cards from your graveyard. He can't be special summoned other ways. Important to note, it says Spiral cards, which means you can banish the field spell. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can target 1 Spiral card you control and 2 cards your opponent controls and destroy them. That's an insane effect and allows you to basically double Scrap Dragon at instant speed. Now, you can target himself, but you probably don't want to because when he is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, you destroy as many cards on your side of the field as possible, then special summon a Super Agent. That's an okay effect if your board is exclusively Spiral Sleeper, but not a particularly good effect if you're trying to grind out advantage as a Zoo deck. Next, we have 3 copies of Spiral Tough doing his best Spiral Super Agent impression. This card lets you declare a card type, monster, spell, or trap, and target 1 card your opponent controls. If you get it right, destroy the targeted card. More importantly, though, he lets you know the top card of your opponent's deck, which is important for special summoning our next card, Super Agent. You can activate his effect in the hand, pick the type of card on the top of your opponent's deck, and if you get it right, special summon him. Then when he's special summoned, you get to destroy a spell or trap your opponent controls. Just another grindy, disgusting 4-star monster. Just like our next card, Spygal Misty, who unfortunately we cannot search with the Spiral Field spell. When this card is normal or special summoned, you get to declare a card type, reveal the top card of your opponent's deck, and if you get it right, you draw a card. Once per turn, you can target a Super Agent you control and 1 monster your opponent controls and return them both to the hand. Effectively, this card allows you to know the card type on top of your opponent's deck, special summon Super Agent, and then bounce one of your opponent's monsters. Incredibly powerful, enables sweet rank 4 plays. I love her. Next to our Zoo people, we have 3 copies of Viper, 2 copies of Molmarat, and 1 copy of Thoroughblade. Oh, sorry. Let me do the English localization. 3 copies of Whiptail, 2 copies of Ratpeer, and 1 copy... Oh, this is still Thoroughblade. After that, we have 3 copies of Terratop and 1 Tekettenborg, just to make MX Saber Invoker. You know the drill. 1 copy of Lunalite Black Sheep in order to find our polymerization substitute, and 1 copy of Maxi. After that, we have 3 copies of Fairy Tale Snow. I really don't have to sing this card's praises. In any mill deck, she is quite good. 3 copies of Spiral Resort. This is the reason to play Spirals. It means that you get to add a Spiral to your hand every turn, and your Spiral cards can be targeted with other card effects. This is an incredibly powerful effect and just waiting to be broken, in my opinion. 1 copy of Fusion Substitute, it's our replacement for Polymerization. 3 copies of Instant Fusion for our Norden in our extra deck. 1 copy of Raigeki because I've heard it's a pretty good card. 3 copies of That Grass Looks Greener. Jesus Christ. This card is single-handedly redefining the way we play Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm excited to redefine along with it. 3 copies of Fire Formation Tenki, a card that I'm sure I'll get shit about in the comments section. 3 copies of Terraforming to find our field spell. 2 Pot of Desires because we're playing 60 cards and I'm scared of playing 3. 3 copies of Zoodiac Barrage because we're playing Zoo. 3 copies of My Body as a Shield because it is very important that our sleeper does not die. 1 copy of Book of Moon. 3 copies of Dimensional Barrier just so that we can actually win the game. 3 copies of Solemn Strike, 1 Warning, and a Torrential, the exciting fun of that I always include in 60 card lists. In the extra deck, we have 1 copy of Elder Entity Norden, a card that I cannot believe is still unbanned. 2 Daigusto Emerald, which I cannot believe is, I mean, maybe you could ban this card. 1 copy of Castel, 1 copy of Invoker, the Utopia Brothers, 1 Totem Bird for when we don't need to make Invoker. Then our Zoodiac Men, 2 copies of Broad Bowl, 2 copies of Trident, 1 copy of Wild Bow, and 1 copy of Tigress. We're also playing a really cool card that was spoiled the other day, number 41, Baguska, a really drunk elephant man, defensive Xyz option, and, you know, honestly, it's a meme that it's in here. I can't wait to see the censored version of this art. So, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Soul Absorption, a fringe playable deck for people who like fun. Unfortunately for them, we are playing the Fun Police. We've opened Terror Top, and that means we can go into any of our Zoodiac plays, or if we draw any piece of Spiral enabling, we can go into our Spiral plays. I mean, things are looking pretty good for us. Our opponent gets to go first, and they will use their first turn to play a couple copies of Soul Absorption and set a Necroface. Not sure that's what you're supposed to be doing with the card, but whatever. We're going to go ahead and get it to Kenenborg, go into Invoker, detach for a Super Agent because we've drawn Misty. Misty will allow us to know the top card of our opponent's library, return the Super Agent, and then use the Super Agent to special summon itself and destroy a spell or trap card. We can then go into a Trident, which will get us the other copy of the spell card off the side of the board, and suddenly we're not really in any danger of our opponent gaining a million life points, which is kind of the point of his deck. So on their turn, they're going to activate Regeki, which is not very good against My Body as a shield, then just normal summon Necroface, which is basically target number 1 for Trident, especially when he puts a Mage Power on it. After that is destroyed, he will pass back to me, and the game's effectively over. At this point, I'm just extended BMing in an attempt to make Spiral Super Agent. We'll use Instant Fusion for Norden, get Super Agent, go into Emerald, shuffle a bunch of cards back. I mistakenly shuffle back Norden, not knowing that I'm actually going to be making a Lunalight Black Sheep play in the near future. For now, let's go ahead and use another Emerald as well. After we add our Fusion Sub to our hand, that's going to shuffle 3 more back in, including 1 Trident, which allows us to get the Sleeper out of our deck. And afterwards, we will use Norden to get back Whiptail, go into Castel, detach 1 to flip down our card so we could use the Fusion Substitute and get in for X amount of damage. Now, you can see we've put him exactly at 2,800 because I want to strike the killing blow with this Spiral Sleeper. It's going to require a little bit of maneuvering, but after we draw Terraforming, I know we can do it. We Terraforming for a Spiral Resort. We're going to try Super Agent's effect. Unfortunately, we don't get it, so we have to normal summon him, go into Trident, destroy our own Super Agent, and here he comes, Sleeper, destroying the field spell to destroy 2 cards on our opponent's side of the field and attack for exact lethal. Our second match is up against SPYRAL, I guess jokingly calling ourselves the Fun Police in the previous game, summoned the actual Fun Police to our match. We have a pretty good hand, but it's kind of hard to gauge what a good hand looks like versus SPYRAL since they have so many pieces of negation. They get to start, and in classic SPYRAL they just pass. We'll go ahead and normal summon our copy of Rat Pier, use its effect, and, well, here's one of the SPYRALs. We're going to use Maxi to draw a card at the very least, but this effect gets negated and the card gets destroyed. We'll pass back, banishing his SPYRAL. On his turn, he draws into a Pot of Duality, finding the field spell, classic SPYRAL as always, activating it and ending his turn. On our turn, we're going to start with Spygal Misty, pick monster card. We get it right, so we get to draw. This makes sure that our Super Agent will be able to special summon itself and destroy this field spell. Then we'll use Instant Fusion, which baits out another SPYRAL, and I'm thinking I can attack in, but probably better is just to pass back. Our opponent is going to draw, and I'm hoping he's just out of gas at this point. Thankfully, I believe he is. We draw into a copy of Zoodiac Barrage, which allows us to get a Rat Pier and start going into combos. We'll go into Tiger Mortar, Bullhorn to get ourselves a copy of Lunalight Black Sheep, normal summon Viper, go into Wild Bow, get rid of Black Sheep for a Poly, use Fusion Sub to make Norden, use Norden's effect to get back Rat Pier, go into Emerald, detach for Emerald, shuffle 3 back in, use Fusion Sub in order to draw another card. We get a Spiral Resort, which allows us to get Super Agent. We pick Monster because he's SPYRAL, and we get it right, and we get to start attacking. Like, whoa! What a turn. We don't get to kill him, unfortunately, and I'm really still holding out for his Sleeper, but that kind of seems like the way I would lose this game, is by getting my Sleeper destroyed. Our opponent is going to once again do nothing. It looks like they have, unfortunately, bricked, and we're going to attack in and kill them. Our third match is up against top-tier regional threat and actually good deck, apparently, Flower Cardian. Someday I'll do 10-minute testing about this. We've opened okay. We have a copy of Spiral Resort, and we can pay the maintenance cost by working up the Zoodiac chain, which is probably good enough. Unfortunately, our opponent's on the play, and they might just blow us out. They'll start with Flower Gathering, which gets them all the Cardians they could ever want. Immediately afterwards, they will go into Peony with Flower, Allure of Darkness, and holy shit, that's Soul Charge. So now we're going to have to deal with 2 copies of Light Shower, which I don't think we can actually do. They will go ahead and go into said copies of Light Shower and end their turn. I guess we're taking 3,000 in our draw step. That's not great. Let's go ahead and get our copy of Spiral Resort, and then get a copy of Super Agent. I mean, hopefully we can do something. This turn, we'll just add a copy of Molmarat to our hand, just making sure we have Rat Pier plays for the next turn, and then shuffle 1 card back to end our turn. Our opponent is going to attack into our Whip-tailed Drident, which means that we'll get to banish 1, but unfortunately it also means we're taking 3,000 points of damage, which is not great, especially because we're taking an additional 1,500 during our draw step. Now we get a Sleeper, and I think I am way far off Sleeper. Let's go ahead and make a Bullhorn, get ourselves a copy of Rat Pier, go for the Super Agent, and unfortunately it's Reincarnation, so I don't really know how I'm going to beat that. We're going to get Polly, go into Norden, which allows us to go into a rank 4 and draw a card afterwards. Maybe we can find something. This Utopia the Lightning will out the cards on board, but I don't know how I'll out the other cards in the deck. We'll set this 1 card. Unfortunately, the set cards are completely useless since we have 500 life points, and here's the Reincarnation. I mean, at this point, we're basically completely dead. There's nothing we can do. He is, however, going to put us through the motions. The person I'm playing against is someone from my chat, and hilariously said, you know, I have no idea how to play this deck. I just clicked yes every time I could in YGO Pro. So, after activating basically every effect in the history of time, they finagle out a way to beat us, and we lose. So we're back with the deck, and whew, it's going to be a long uphill battle to playability if this deck can't overcome its abysmal Flower Guardian matchup. Honestly, I really like this deck. I think SPYRAL Zoodiac is one of the unsung heroes of this format. It was actually pretty well represented at the regional I went to, despite not showing up very often on Yu-Gi-Oh! Top decks. The ability to play a hyper-consistent engine like Zoodiac alongside the really powerful 1-for-1s that is the entire Spiral archetype is pretty cool. And the inclusion of SPYRAL Sleeper allows this otherwise very grindy deck to actually close out games occasionally. I'm really excited to see if this becomes meta, even if it is just a little bit of a tech in an existing Zoodiac list. All in all, if you want to play a grindy deck that is not Paleozoics, this deck is really worth your time. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed another 60-card deck profile in which I never drew grass. If you want to see me play the decks that I make on this show on stream, I'm on twitch.tv/monobluetron from 10 to noon Eastern Standard Time every Monday and Wednesday, links in the description. And if you have a deck idea or an archetype that you'd like me to explore, let me know in the comment section below and I will do my best to accommodate you. Otherwise, I'll see you Tuesday.